They thought I was weak because of my age. They thought my silence meant I didn't see or I didn't care. But they were wrong. My silence was not weakness. It was patience. And one day, that patience ended. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruth. I'm 74 years old. And before I share my story with you, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know, because this story, it's about family, and family troubles don't belong to one country or one culture. They happen everywhere. I was born in a small town, but life took me through storms I never imagined. My husband passed away young. I was left alone to raise my son, David. I worked double shifts, skipped meals so he could eat, and saved every penny to send him to school. He was the light of my life, the reason I never gave up. And when he grew into a fine young man, I thought to myself, it was worth it. When David met Anna, I was genuinely happy for him. She was young, lively, and ambitious. I remember the first time he brought her home. She wore a bright red dress and smiled politely, though I could sense something in her eyes, a kind of sharpness, like she was always measuring people. But I told myself, maybe I'm just being protective. She'll grow into the family. At first, everything was fine. Anna was polite, though never warm. She never called me Mom, but I didn't mind. Respect mattered more than titles. But over time, little cracks began to show. When I'd give her advice about cooking, she would roll her eyes as though I was a burden. When I tried to tell her stories from my past, she would cut me short with, "Oh, that's old-fashioned." It stung, but I stayed quiet. David was caught between us. But like many men, he preferred to avoid confrontation. And because of that, I learned to swallow my pride, telling myself that peace was better than arguments. Then came the small things, the money. At first, Anna asked politely, "Mum, can we borrow a little from your pension? Just for groceries, we'll return it." "Of course," I said yes. What is money compared to family? I had lived through hunger, through cold nights without heating. If my son's family needed help, I would give it. But slowly, those small borrowings became habits. It wasn't just groceries anymore. Anna would say, "We're short on the electricity bill, can you cover it?" Or, "I found a lovely dress on sale, could you help out?" I gave without complaint, even when it meant cutting from my own needs. Sometimes, I went without my medication for a week, stretching it out, just so I wouldn't burden them with costs. And do you know what? I didn't mind, because when you love someone, you sacrifice. That's what mothers do. But Anna, she never said thank you. She took the money with a smile that never reached her eyes, as if it was her right. One time I noticed my bank card missing from my purse. I searched everywhere, panicked. Hours later, Anna casually mentioned, "Oh, I used it to pay at the store. I hope you don't mind." I wanted to ask, "Why didn't you tell me?" But my lips stayed sealed. I convinced myself it was nothing. Family shares, after all. And so I let it go. Again and again. Looking back, I realized my silence was giving her permission. By not confronting her, I made her bolder. She grew used to taking, and I grew used to giving. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the way she began to look at me. Not like a mother-in-law, not even like a person, but like an obstacle. Something in her eyes told me, "You don't belong here. This is my house, my life, and you are just extra baggage." I tried to brush it off. I told myself I was imagining it. But deep inside, I knew. Still, I stayed quiet. Why? Because of David. My son was happy, and that was enough for me. Or at least, I thought it was. But little did I know, the day was coming when silence would no longer protect me. The day when Anna's words would cut deeper than ever before. The day when my patience would run out. And that day began with something so small, so ordinary, you might laugh at it. A forgotten salad dressing. At first, it was the small things. The rolled eyes, the impatient sighs. But over the months, those little signs turned into open disrespect. Anna began dismissing me in front of others. If I suggested a recipe at dinner, she'd laugh and say, "That's how they cooked 50 years ago. We don't eat like that anymore." When the neighbors visited, she would introduce me not as my mother-in-law, but as David's mum who stays with us, as though I were some visitor who'd overstayed her welcome. It stung, but I told myself to bear it. After all, what good would come from creating arguments? The real pain came when it involved my grandchildren. One day, I bought my granddaughter, Lily, a beautiful doll. I'd saved a little from my pension that month just to surprise her. Her eyes lit up when she saw it. She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you, Grandma." But later that evening, when I went to check on her, the doll was gone. I asked gently, "Where is your doll, darling?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Mommy said it's ugly and threw it away." My heart sank. I went back to my room, sat on the bed, and cried quietly. Not because of the doll, but because I realized Anna wasn't just insulting me anymore. She was teaching my granddaughter to reject me, too. As time passed, Anna became bolder with money. She didn't ask anymore, she expected. She'd leave shopping bags on the counter, new shoes, handbags, cosmetics, all paid for with money that had disappeared from my wallet or my bank card. Once, I asked gently, "Anna, did you use my card yesterday?" She didn't even flinch. She just said, "Oh, yes, I needed to pick up a few things." Don't worry, it wasn't much. Wasn't much. It was nearly half my pension for the month. But I swallowed my anger, telling myself, family is more important than money. Don't make a fuss. Still, something inside me was starting to stir. One afternoon, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication. When I tried to pay, the pharmacist said kindly, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Ruth, your card was declined." Declined? My heart dropped. I walked home in silence, clutching the small paper bag with only half the pills I needed. That evening, I overheard Anna bragging on the phone. "Yes, I got it. It's brand new. Top brand. Oh, don't worry. Ruth paid for it." My blood boiled, but I said nothing. Not yet. The breaking point, however, wasn't money. It was humiliation. One Sunday, the whole family gathered for dinner. My son, my daughter-in-law, and the children. I wanted to help, so I set the table and prepared the salad. But in my rush, I forgot the dressing. As everyone sat down, Anna smirked and said loudly, "See, she can't even remember salad dressing. This is why she should be in a nursing home. She's becoming useless." The room went silent. David lowered his head, pretending to focus on his food. The children glanced between us, confused. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. For a moment, I thought I might cry. But instead, I smiled faintly and said nothing. Inside, however, something broke. That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered to myself, "Enough, Ruth." Enough. I realized that my silence was not keeping the peace. It was feeding her cruelty. By staying quiet, I had given her the power to humiliate me. And that was the night I decided I would no longer stay silent. But little did I know, the truth I was about to uncover was darker than I ever imagined. The words echoed in my ears long after dinner had ended. She can't even remember salad dressing. This is why she should be in a nursing home. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy. It wasn't the missing dressing. It wasn't even the insult. It was the silence that followed it. My son, my David, the boy I had sacrificed my youth for, sat there in silence, avoiding my eyes, pretending to cut his food. He didn't defend me. He didn't even flinch. And that silence hurt more than Anna's words ever could. I closed my eyes and remembered the nights I had stayed up sewing clothes for David when he was a child. The mornings I walked to work in the freezing cold so he could sleep a little longer. The days I went hungry so he wouldn't have to. And now, the same boy who once clung to me, whispering, "Don't leave me, Mama." Couldn't even say one word when his wife humiliated me. I thought of leaving, packing my small suitcase and disappearing into some quiet nursing home where no one would mock me. At least there, my silence would not be misunderstood. But then a different voice rose inside me, firm, steady, strong. No, Ruth, you are not done yet. You are not weak. You are not invisible. And if Anna wants to push you into the shadows, then it's time you step into the light. The next morning, I watched Anna as she bustled around the kitchen, speaking to me as if nothing had happened. Don't forget, Ruth, the kids need lunch money. Oh, and we'll need extra cash this week for groceries. You'll help us out, won't you? Her words dripped with entitlement. She didn't even ask. She demanded. I forced a smile, but inside, I was boiling. That was when I began to notice things I had ignored before. Bills that never reached me. Receipts for purchases I never made. My pension money vanishing faster than it should. Anna thought I was too old to notice. She thought my silence was ignorance. But age sharpens the senses in ways youth will never understand. And what I discovered over the next few days, it made my blood run cold. On Tuesday, I visited the bank. I told the teller I wanted to check my statements. The young woman smiled politely, but when she pulled up my account, her face shifted. Mrs. Ruth, have you been making large withdrawals recently? Luxury items, online shopping? My heart sank. No? Why? She slid a few receipts across the counter. Jewelry, designer handbags, cosmetics worth more than my monthly pension. And there, at the bottom of each receipt, was my name, signed in handwriting that looked almost like mine, but wasn't. For a moment, my knees trembled. I gripped the counter, whispering, She forged my signature. The teller's eyes softened with pity, but I raised my chin. Please print me copies of everything. I walked home slowly, each step heavy but determined. In my bag, I carried proof. Proof that Anna was not just cruel. She was a thief. That evening, as I watched Anna laugh on the phone, showing off her new handbag to a friend, something inside me hardened. She thought I was powerless. She thought my silence meant she had won. But she didn't know me. She didn't know the woman who had raised a child alone in a world that gave her nothing. She didn't know the battles I had fought and the storms I had survived. That night, I made a vow. The next time the family gathered at the table, I would no longer stay silent. The next time Anna mocked me, I would not bow my head. The truth would be spoken, and when it was, she would not be able to lift her head again. In the days that followed, I carried myself as though nothing had changed. I smiled when Anna spoke to me. I nodded when she gave me her endless list of demands, and I handed her the money she asked for. But inside, I was no longer the same. Inside, I was a soldier preparing for battle. Every smile was a mask, every silence, a weapon, and every step I took was one closer to the truth. I began searching through the papers at home, old bills, bank letters, even receipts tossed carelessly in the trash. What I found made my heart race. There were electricity bills addressed in my name but paid with my card, yet I never saw them. There were receipts for online orders, signed with my name, but written in Anna's hurried scrawl. Piece by piece, the puzzle formed. This wasn't just a careless daughter-in-law who borrowed money without asking. This was a woman deliberately using me, forging my name, draining my account, pretending I was too old and frail to notice. And if she had the audacity to forge my signature on shopping receipts, what else was she capable of? One night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my room, the lamp casting a soft glow over the documents I had collected. My pension statements, the receipts, the missing bills. I stared at them for hours, my mind racing. I imagined what would happen if I had never looked closer, if I had continued letting her walk over me. Eventually, she wouldn't stop at handbags and cosmetics. Eventually, she would try something bigger. maybe even the house. The thought chilled me to the bone. My home, the very roof I had built with years of sweat and sacrifice, was under threat. And suddenly I realized this wasn't just about me. If she could do this to me, what would she do to my son? To my grandchildren? Number. This had to end. The next day, I visited the bank again. This time, I asked for the manager. I explained everything. He listened carefully, his brow furrowed, and then nodded. Mrs. Ruth, we'll flag your account. No more unauthorized transactions. But if you'd like, we can also prepare a full report of the withdrawals made in the last 6 months. 6 months. When I saw the list, my breath caught. Thousands of dollars. All gone. All under my name. I signed the request for official copies and tucked them carefully into my purse. As I walked home, a calmness settled over me. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt in control. That evening, I watched Anna at dinner. She laughed with David, chatted with the children, played the role of the perfect wife. But to me, she looked different now. I saw her not as a daughter-in-law, but as an intruder in my home. A snake coiled at the heart of my family. She thought I was too old to fight. She thought my silence meant defeat. But she was about to learn that 74 years of life had given me something she could never buy with all my stolen money: wisdom, patience, and the courage to wait for the right moment. And that moment was coming soon. I decided I would not confront her in private. Number. That would be too easy for her to twist, to deny, to cry crocodile tears and make David believe her lies again. No, the truth had to be revealed where no excuses could hide. At the family table, in front of my son, in front of my grandchildren, in front of everyone who had silently watched her disrespect me. That would be the stage, and I would be ready. So I prepared. I gathered every receipt, every bill, every bank statement. I placed them neatly in an envelope and hid it under my pillow like a secret weapon. Each night, I touched that envelope before I went to sleep, reminding myself, soon, Ruth. Soon the day was coming when Anna's smirk would vanish. The day was coming when my silence would finally speak. And when it did, the sound would be louder than any insult she had ever thrown at me. Perfect, Wasim. You're absolutely right. The showdown is the heart of the story, the scene the audience has been waiting for. It needs to be larger, longer, more layered, with back and forth tension, interruptions, and dramatic reveals. The day arrived sooner than I expected. It was a Saturday evening, and the whole family had gathered again. The table was full. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh bread, the kind of meal that should bring warmth. The children laughed as they passed around bowls, the clinking of cutlery echoing in the dining room. And then there was Anna, sitting tall, her chin raised, acting as though the house belonged only to her. I had kept my silence for too long. Tonight, that would end. I waited patiently until everyone had settled. David was pouring juice for the kids. Anna was busy correcting Lily's table manners, and for a moment, I simply watched. I looked at my son, the boy I had once rocked to sleep, now a grown man who still hadn't learned when to stand up for me. And then I looked at Anna, the woman who had slowly drained my dignity and my savings. I placed my fork down gently and cleared my throat. I'd like to say something. The table fell quiet. All eyes turned to me. Anna smirked. Oh? Is it another old story, Ruth? Maybe keep it short. The children get bored easily. Her words dripped with mockery, and I felt the children glance nervously at each other. But this time I did not smile faintly. This time my voice was steady. No, Anna. This is not a story. This is the truth. And it's time everyone here heard it. Anna frowned, shifting uncomfortably. Ruth, please. Not now. You always make everything dramatic. I ignored her. I reached under my chair and pulled out the thick envelope I had carried like a sword. You said I belong in a nursing home. Tonight, I'll tell you why you want me out of this house so badly." Her smirk faltered. David looked confused. The children leaned closer. Anna snapped, "Ruth, that's enough. Sit down before you embarrass yourself," but I was already standing. My hands didn't tremble. My voice didn't waver. "No, Anna. Tonight. The embarrassment won't be mine." I opened the envelope and pulled out the first set of papers. 4 months. I've let you take my pension money. I told myself it was for groceries, for the children, for the household. But do you know what I discovered? It was never groceries. It was handbags, dresses, cosmetics. I laid the receipts down on the table. The children craned their necks to see. David blinked rapidly, his face paling. Anna let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, don't be ridiculous. Those could be anyone's receipts." "No," I said calmly. "They're mine." Paid with my card, I pulled out the next set of papers. Bank statements with highlighted charges. "Do you see these? Hundreds of dollars, withdrawn over and over. I didn't make these purchases, Anna. You did. And you thought I wouldn't notice." Anna's voice rose, sharp and defensive. "This is absurd. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's confused. She's old." David opened his mouth, but I raised my hand. For once, he stayed silent, letting me continue. I looked straight at Anna. "You thought I was too old to notice, too old to fight back. But you made one mistake, Anna. You left behind your trail. And I followed it. I pulled out the final piece of evidence, the forged signatures. The room went still. I placed them gently in front of my son. "Look, David. Look at how your wife signs my name." His face drained of color. He picked up the papers, scanned them, then looked at Anna in disbelief. "Anna, is this true?" Anna's voice cracked. "No, she's lying. She's making it up. But her words faltered when she saw the documents in his hand, the signatures, sloppy imitations of mine. She slammed her hands on the table. "She's doing this to ruin me. Can't you see? She's jealous. She wants to turn you against me." Her voice grew louder, shrill, desperate. The children covered their ears. But I did not flinch. I stepped closer. My eyes locked on hers. "I stayed silent when you mocked me. I stayed silent when you threw away the gifts I gave my grandchildren. I stayed silent when you drained my pension. But forging my name, that silence ends tonight." David's voice shook. "Anna, answer me. Did you do this?" Anna looked around wildly, her mask cracking. I only borrowed it. I was going to put it back. It's not what she's making it sound like." I cut her off, my voice firm. "Borrowing is when you ask. Theft is when you steal. Fraud is when you forge another's name. Do you want me to show you the bank report too? Because I have it." I pulled out the final document, placing it on the table like the last card in a game of poker. Anna's face crumbled. Silence filled the room. David stared at his wife, his jaw clenched, his hands trembling around the papers. The children looked frightened, but their eyes darted between me and their mother, as though realizing for the first time who the real villain was. Anna tried, one last time. Her voice broke into a shout. "You don't know what you're saying! You're senile! I slammed my hand down, not in anger, but in power. The sound echoed like thunder. "Enough!" The word cut through the room like a blade. I leaned forward, my voice low but strong. "You thought my silence was weakness, but my silence was love. Love for my son. Love for this family. And you used that love to bleed me dry. You tried to turn my grandchildren against me. And worst of all, you made my son believe I was a burden." Tears filled my eyes, but I did not let them fall. Not anymore. David's voice finally came, heavy and broken. "Anna? How could you?" Anna shrank back into her chair, her face pale, her lips trembling. And for the first time since she entered my life, she couldn't look me in the eye. Anna's face twisted, as though she were searching for an escape. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her hands shook as they clutched at her napkin, crumpling it into nothing. Finally, she blurted out, her voice shrill and trembling. "This is all being blown out of proportion. I I just borrowed a little. I had no choice. I only did it for the family." Her excuse hung in the air like a rotten smell. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on hers. "For the family? Or for yourself? Was the handbag for the family, Anna? The designer shoes? The cosmetics? The forged signatures? Tell me, how does that feed the children?" Her face burned red, her mouth opening and closing like a trapped fish. David sat frozen, his knuckles white as he gripped the papers. The children watched wide-eyed, sensing that something big was unfolding, something they would remember for the rest of their lives. Anna's tone grew desperate. "You're trying to make me look like a criminal. You're exaggerating everything. She's old, David. She doesn't remember things properly. You can't trust her." I felt a fire ignite inside me. I rose to my full height, my voice ringing clear and strong. "Don't you dare use my age as your shield. I may be 74, but my memory is sharper than your lies. I remember every dollar I gave, every insult you threw, every tear I shed in silence. And now, I remember every crime you committed, and so will everyone else at this table." Anna flinched, her body shrinking under the weight of my words. David finally found his voice. He turned to her, his voice low but trembling with fury. "Anna, I asked you a question. Did you forge my mother's signature? Yes or no?" Anna's breath hitched. Her eyes darted to the children, then to him, then back to me. I didn't mean to." "Yes or no?" David's hand slammed the table. The children jumped, her shoulders sagged. The fight drained from her face. "Yes." Gasps filled the room. Even the children understood. She buried her face in her hands, shaking, her head. I was desperate. I just wanted more. I didn't think she would notice. I stepped closer, my voice steady but heavy with years of pain and love. "You thought I wouldn't notice because you thought I was weak. You thought my silence meant I had no strength left. But my silence was never weakness, Anna. My silence was love. Love for my son. Love for my grandchildren. Love for this family." I paused, letting the words sink in. My hands trembled slightly, but I pressed them firmly on the table, standing tall. "But you turned that love into an opportunity for greed. You mocked me, humiliated me, used me, and you nearly destroyed the family I sacrificed my whole life to protect." Tears welled in my eyes, but I did not let my voice break. I stayed quiet, so David could have peace. I stayed quiet so the children would not see us fighting. But tonight, I speak, because silence is no longer protection. It is poison, and I will not let you poison this home any longer. Anna lowered her hands slowly, her mascara smudged, her eyes swollen. For once there was no smirk, no arrogance, no mockery. Just shame. She whispered, barely audible. "Tss, I'm sorry." But it wasn't to me. It was to herself. To the image of control she had lost. To the pride that had shattered. I turned to David. He sat there, broken, staring at the woman he thought he knew. His hands shook as he placed the papers down, his jaw clenched. Finally, he whispered, "Mum, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you. I should have seen it sooner." I placed my hand gently on his shoulder. "You see it now, my son. That is enough." Anna sat silently, her head bowed, her body trembling. She couldn't meet my eyes, couldn't meet David's, couldn't even face her children. The room felt different. The power she once held had vanished, replaced with an emptiness she couldn't escape. And for the first time since she entered my life, I felt no fear of her. I had taken back what she stole from me. My dignity, my strength, my voice. She wanted me silenced. But tonight, my silence became her downfall. The dinner table, once filled with laughter and chatter, now sat in heavy silence. The only sound was the faint clinking of David's fork as he set it down, unable to eat another bite. Anna sat hunched over, her head bowed, her hands trembling in her lap. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. The woman who once strutted around this house, mocking me, using me, treating me as though I were nothing, was now reduced to whispers and shame. My son sat between us, torn apart, his face pale and weary. He looked at me with tears gathering in his eyes. "Mum," he whispered, his voice cracking, "I don't know how I let it get this far. I should have defended you that night. I should have defended you every time she disrespected you. You gave me everything, and I stayed quiet. I failed you." I reached out and touched his hand, my own wrinkled fingers resting gently on his. "No, David. You are my son. You did not fail me. You simply trusted too much in the wrong person. And maybe I failed you too, by staying silent for too long." He shook his head. "No. You stayed silent because you loved me, because you wanted peace. I see that now. And I promise you, Mum, never again. I'll never let anyone make you feel small in this house." Anna let out a soft sob. She raised her head, her face streaked with tears. "Ruth, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I was greedy. I was cruel. I thought you were weak, and I used you. And now everyone knows what I really am." Her voice broke as she turned to the children. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The children stared at her, too young to fully understand, but old enough to feel the weight of shame in the room. I looked at her for a long moment. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of every insult, every time she threw away my gifts, every night she made me cry quietly in my room. But another part of me, the part that had survived 74 years of hardship, loss, and sacrifice, knew that anger was too easy. What she needed was not my rage, it was my truth. I spoke softly, but my words cut deeper than any shout ever could. "Anna, forgiveness is not something you ask for in words. It's something you prove in actions. You humiliated me, stole from me, tried to erase me from my own son's life. You can cry, you can apologize, but the only way I will forgive you is if you change. And if you cannot change, then this family will change without you." Her eyes widened, and she nodded quickly, wiping her tears. "I will change. I swear it. I never want to see this look in David's eyes again. I never want the children to see me like this again. I will change, Ruth. I promise." I held her gaze, searching for sincerity. For the first time, I saw not arrogance, not entitlement, but a flicker of humility. Maybe it was real. Maybe it wasn't. Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. She would never see me the same way again. The rest of dinner was quiet. No one had much appetite left. The children were sent to bed early. David cleaned the table in silence, and Anna disappeared into the bedroom, her sobs muffled by the walls. I sat alone for a while, staring at the envelope of papers that had changed everything. It wasn't victory I felt. It wasn't triumph. It was peace. For the first time in years, I felt like I had my voice back. Like I wasn't invisible. Like I wasn't just the old woman in the corner. I had reminded them all, and myself, that age does not make us weak, that silence does not mean defeat, that love does not mean allowing others to destroy us. Later that night, David came to me once more. He hugged me tightly, just as he had when he was a boy, and whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for not giving up on me." Tears finally slid down my cheeks. "I could never give up on you, my son. You were my reason to live, and you still are." We stood there in silence, mother and son, finally united again. And now, as I share this story with you, I want you to remember one thing. Never let anyone make you feel invisible because of your age. Never let anyone convince you that your silence is weakness. We carry decades of wisdom, strength, and love inside us. And when the time comes to speak, Our voices can shake walls. So, my dear friends, thank you for listening to my story. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And have you ever felt underestimated just because of your age? I want to hear your stories too, because together we are not silent. Together we are strong.